Hi, Amy.
Happy.
Last night we watched 90 Day Fiancé season 11, episode 13. What did you think?
It was okay. I didn't clean my kitchen. I watched the whole thing. I didn't fast forward much. I just didn't have very much to comment on. What about you?
Yes, similarly, I found there wasn't too much to talk about. Not very much of controversial happened. It was kind of boring. And we didn't see everybody this week, which was too bad.
I feel like it was more of like this was a filler episode to lead us into the bigger stuff.
Yes.
I'm okay with that. Like, again, I wasn't bored. I wasn't overly irritated. I laughed a couple times. So it was okay.
It was okay. I give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. No, you disagree. Too high?
No, maybe.
Ooh.
Maybe a 5.2.
Okay.
I don't know. Ask me after the show.
All right, I'll try to remember. Before we dive in, one, rate, review, and follow us wherever you listen to the podcast. 2, watch the podcast on YouTube at 90 Day Fiancé. Honestly, let's dive in. Stevi and Mahdi, they have 3 days left until their wedding. Of course, this is not the full 90-day span. They've shortened it up because they want to take advantage of this cheaper visa, something.
Yes, this is the save $2,000 wedding adventure.
Okay. Stevi has ordered her dress. I believe it was online. Her wedding gown.
Oh, yeah, I didn't pick up on that. When I looked at the screen, all of a sudden she was wearing this absolutely grotesque dress. I'm like, there's no way you bought that in the store. It doesn't even fit you, like not even remotely.
That's what I figured. When she said I ordered it, I thought that's got to be an online purchase because it fits her so badly. It was very roomy and she's going to need alterations for sure.
And she already had it in her possession. Like when I bought my wedding dress, I put the deposit on it. So it was ordered, but then they would have done all the alterations before I picked it up.
Right. Well, Mahdi's assessment of Stevi's dress when she puts it on is that it makes you look old. Not the thing that every bride wants to hear coming out of her groom's mouth when he sees her for the first time wearing her wedding gown.
I agreed with him though. Just the style, the size, I guess the lack of fit, just was not for her.
It wasn't flattering at all. I totally agreed with Mahdi's assessment. But did you get the sense that she's going to wear it or not going to wear it, given his reaction?
Oh, no, she's definitely not going to wear it. I feel like that was either a production plant or she was playing a joke.
Okay. So the dress got kind of tossed to the side and forgotten while they packed their bags to go to New Orleans for the bachelor and bachelorette parties.
For the joint bachelor and bachelorette party.
Yeah. I don't know what I think about a joint bachelorette party. I can understand maybe for somebody like Mahdi who's just coming from such a strict culture to feel like a little bit out of place coming to the States and engaging in this it's quite a raucous celebration. Maybe he would want the security of doing it with Stevi so that it doesn't get too out of hand. But I don't know. It could go two ways. There could be some, what is that face? Tell me.
It's a joint bachelorette party. 1. 2, he apparently had no say in it whatsoever. 3, she decides that it's a great idea to incorporate the nude female body, which he has been questioning her about this entire season.
Yes, there is that.
This appropriate?
Yes.
I think it's so incredibly appropriate. I thought it was very stupid of her to do, but I was also, go on. Let me see what happens with this. And was this her choice? Like, did she actually plan this? Because if she did, she's playing with fire in her relationship.
She sure is. I would have thought that she did plan it. Was it this couple that was talking about having burlesque dancers, or was it Jessica and Juan? Okay, so it was Stevi and Mahdi, the burlesque, and he doesn't know what that is, so she describes it a little bit for him. He's clearly uncomfortable with the thought of having women in any state of undress around his bride-to-be, because, like you said, he's got some major concerns. This whole question of the bisexuality came up over and over again throughout their segments. I'm starting to feel like it's being way blown out of proportion because this is the only conflict that this couple has, really. And so production is making an absolutely massive mountain out of a molehill for the sake of keeping our interest.
You done good. You done good with this one.
But I wouldn't change my opinion that I still think that Stevie should come clean with him and say one way or the other, yes, I am, or no, I'm not. I think he deserves the truth. He's going to marry you. He's going to be with you for the rest of your life.
Is he going to marry her?
Okay. Yes, he is. Of course he is. He's going to go back to Iran and possibly be jailed for the rest of his life? No.
Why am I humming?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay,
Sorry.
I have to ask you, what did you think about Saeed, the friend of Mahdi's that they meet up with in New Orleans? Because he was something.
I love that he questioned whether or not Stevie loves Mahdi at all. I feel like he asked a lot of decent questions, but I also it feels like he's like a cultural nitpicker. He picks and chooses what he wants to support. So his perspective isn't as valued, I guess, as someone who was just authentically themselves. And I didn't appreciate how he basically attacked her when they sent Mahdi off, and immediately all about these questions. And we've seen it before when the friends ask questions too quickly and how it puts everyone on the defensive, though I do think that Stevie handled herself quite well during that conversation. I don't know. It was too much too soon. I think that's the end of my thought.
Excellent. Good thoughts. My thoughts are that Saeed, when he initially sat down with Mahdi and Mahdi was expressing to him that he had these concerns about a possible bisexual partner going on, that Saeed immediately grabbed onto this idea, because it's not a fact yet. It's an idea. It's a hypothesis that Mahdi has. And he acted as if it's true. I have to do something about it. This is essentially crucial to resolving before I allow my friend to marry this woman. Like, he seemed to have some kind of a hero complex that kicked in, and he acted as if the problem was huge and that he was the one who was going to help to solve it immediately, that it must be solved immediately. And I think that's why he came off so strong on Stevie when he cornered her later on to ask her those questions.
It's very medley.
Yes.
Strong.
Yes.
Medley.
Meddlesome is a good word. I felt like he was exacerbating the situation by reinforcing Mahdi's opinions and agreeing with him on everything rather than sitting back like a good friend. Like, you and I have had conversations where I say, this is how I feel. And you're like, well, you should also consider this
perspective.
Yeah, because a good friend gives you a more objective opinion so that you can then maybe step back and look at the situation with a little bit more clarity, a little better perspective. Mm-hmm. But rather than doing that, he was doing the opposite. He was hyper focusing.
Yeah, because typically when my friends come to me and they want to talk about something heavy, I ask them first, do you want to talk or do you want to work out a solution? And then that way I know whether or not I'm listening or whether or not I'm formulating an opinion that I will then reflect back to them. And obviously that's not how typical conversations go. Obviously, that's not how this one went. I mean, I can appreciate the fact that Saeed wanted to support Mahdi in this. And I do think that it is a big concern because, I wonder if Mahdi even believes in divorce. So what if they do get married and it comes out that she is bi? Or maybe she's not even bi, and again, she just played around in college. Whatever. That could blow up the marriage. So why don't you, again, with all of the 90-day couples, talk about the big important things first and then get married? But they have 3 days.
Just 3 days.
Stevie has to do is say yes or no.
Yeah.
Or even before, but not now.
I don't know why she's holding it. It's a secret.
She's embarrassed.
Okay, valid. Tell your husband behind closed doors when the cameras aren't there. Then tell him. Yeah. The other thought that I had about Saeed was how much has he had to drink? Because there were several scenes where they were showing him, he was kind of wavering and he couldn't focus. And I was like, okay, this guy is definitely drunk. Those were definitely filmed after they went to the bar to pick up the hurricanes and were drinking in the streets. But maybe he had something to drink before he even came to see Mahdi. Never know. Could have been nerves, being on camera, being on this TV show. So there could be that element at play as well.
Yeah, I picked up on that when they were having that conversation, because it was almost like he had like the slightest slur to his voice. And I think it became quite, not obvious, but even more suggestive when he asked her if she was selfish. You asked all of these very relevant questions, albeit too much too soon. Then you ask her if she's selfish.
To me, whenever he said that and whenever the camera panned over to her, I felt like there was a lot of anger, very, very thinly disguised and very close to the surface in Stevie. She did not like being questioned in this way. And that really showed through when she said about Mahdi, well, he's a grown man. He can make his own choices.
AKA back off.
Back off. And also, AKA, I'm a grown woman. How dare you question me and my choices? Like it, anyway, she was very, very angry. I don't think she's going to like this friend of Mahdi's very much.
Well, not anymore.
Mm-mm.
And I loved that little interview that they did with Mahdi where he was saying, I feel like I shouldn't have said anything.
That was sweet.
Because now he's gonna try to do something about it, as opposed to just listening and being a friend to him. Now he's gonna bring it up with Stevie. Like, could you imagine, like, if you told me things about your marriage and I was like, okay, cool. And then I'm like, your husband, let me ask you all of these very poignant questions and accuse you of being selfish and, just assume that your relationship is going to be even better after that. Like, hell's nah. This is not a throuple. Thank God. This is their relationship.
Yeah.
It's none of your business.
And I don't believe Mahdi asked Saeed to butt in and to intervene. There was none of that. No, I didn't think so. I liked the part where he questioned himself and he was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And he felt a little bit of a sense of betrayal towards Stevie. So I thought that was really cute because it does show that he is very considerate of her. And I was like, okay, well, if you feel this way now, Mahdi, maybe you should just go have a quick little word to Saeed and say, you know what? Don't mention anything. It's okay. I've got this under control. I just needed to vent.
I really appreciate your perspective. I appreciate you sharing that with me. Just don't say anything to her. We're already going through a lot. I want to deal with this on my own.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
No, sadly. Shall we read on? Shekinah and Sarper, who are blissfully happy again. They have taken a page from Ashley and Manuel's handbook to happy relationships and long-lasting marriages. Have gone the way of the bonobo. Yes.
You got there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the handheld book for the dead. Like in Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
And this is the handheld book for couples that should not be together.
Yeah. Okay.
Or sexually charged couples who should not be together.
I'm glad. I'm happy that they have mended things for the moment, but it doesn't really sit well with me. When they sit down to have a conversation and they're talking about how things are going well now, Shekinah is scolding Sarper for staying in the house when they're having an argument. And I was like, that is the stupidest argument I think I've ever heard. He's working on things. He's actively trying to stay close to you and to give that opportunity for you guys to sit down and talk about this whenever you want. And you're telling him he should leave the house? How does that make things better?
And also, you tell him to leave the house all the time. Why don't you leave for once?
Yeah, she left in Turkey. She left.
Yeah, but in her own place.
Yeah.
And that team kind of, just you leave Sarper alone. And in one of her little cutaway interview things, she's like, it's the sex that holds us together. And I'm like, maybe you shouldn't be together if that's the real glue.
If that's all you've got, it's not going to stick.
No, then you're just friends with benefits at that point. Where's this deep emotional connection? Where's your wanting to grow together to become something bigger? She's all finger pointy. And the condescension. He's not good enough. He's not a real man. I think that was from the last episode. But
the line that stood out for me was when she said, if you don't like it, meaning the way that she treats him. If you don't
Mhm.
like it, then you need to treat me better. And I was like, yes, that's it. It's all his fault. It all starts with him. It's all got to do with him. It hinges on him. And you are only responsible for reacting to him, not being kind to him, not being nice to him, not putting forward your best attitude or best behavior, being an engaging and considerate partner. It's all on him. And if he misbehaves, then you're allowed to be a total bitch.
But she's a total bitch, whether or not he misbehaves or not.
Exactly. Because she's relinquishing all responsibility and
then,
saying it's his.
And she pulls that, you'll probably be able to identify this better than I can right now, but she's all, I've finally decided that, back in Turkey, we would wake up and I would make him coffee and he would play chess. And I love the fact that he plays chess. I thought that was so cute. She's like, I really want to get back to that. So, I thought I would get an office so she could work out of the house. And I just wanted to shake her. Like, bitch, you should have done that before he got there. Like, in what world did you think that that was going to be a great idea? You can't cook. You can't poop. He can't even physically be there, let alone poop in the toilet.
Why are we talking about this?
Sorry, toilet again. I'm sorry. But like that's quite literally the least that she could do to make him feel at home. She has single-handedly prevented them from being able to have that time together. And then I wonder, does she even make coffee at home because it smells?
Probably not. Everything was takeout, right? So they probably go and get their coffees and get their breakfast. I would not imagine that anything that makes the remotest kind of scent would be allowed in the house except for candles.
But that coffee smells lingers.
Mhm.
Coffee smell lingers.
Yes.
So does she like open all the windows and vent the place out, or just light a ton of candles and hope that they think it's a coffee scented candle?
Who knows? But I agree with you that it should have been done before he came over. The only thing that I will give her credit for in this instance is that perhaps because she was living in Turkey when they both came over to the US, there wasn't an opportunity for her to do that prior to his arrivals. And perhaps she actually had this planned from whatever point it was at which that they knew they were going to be moving to the States. And she just wasn't able to implement the moving of her office until they were physically living there. So I can see that as being painted by the production as he's got to contend with all these horrible conditions, when in fact that was the plan all along, to move out. Because it seems very, very logical that you would make that concession. I mean, if that did not occur to her months ago before they came to the US, then yes, she is everything and more that we have said about her in a negative way.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the perspective. I hadn't actually thought of that. Could be true, but it could also be that she's extremely selfish and this is fine. I'll do this. But she still blames it all on him. And she even says he's stressing her out to the point where she's losing her.
I know, that was funny. That was so funny.
Is that what the wigs are for?
Apparently so.
Couldn't believe that. And when Sarper goes to the new office and it's getting all set up and they have the handyman there and he starts describing what a real handyman looks like, I laughed because he was describing Greg.
Oh my God, he was.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
Wow. Goofy, sweaty, chubby, and with the fork, otherwise known as the butt crack hanging out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent observation. I love that. Yeah, the handyman episode was so funny. The way that Sarper kept glancing up and down his body to check him out, to like give him the once over, like, who are you? What are you doing? What do you have to offer? And what are you trying to do with my woman? Clearly being very worried and or paranoid that Daniel, that's the handyman's name, might have been flirting with Shekinah or trying to steal her away. I mean, who knows what he was thinking. But it's so cute at those moments to see Sarper as this person who is just like the rest of us, even though he's like all muscly and, the face and everything. He still gets worried that he's going to lose his girlfriend, his fiance.
And she just said, I think it was the last episode, she was like, I could find someone better.
Yes, she did do that.
To that effect.
Yeah.
Now his insecurities have been triggered, and I would assume that she just said, I have the handyman coming over.
Yeah.
And he assumed that Greg would be going over. So to walk in and see, like, I don't even remember what the guy looked like.
I noticed that he had his shirt unbuttoned about halfway, the same that Sarper does. And I was like, what handyman goes around with his shirt open almost down to his navel?
Someone who is familiar with their client, am I right?
Somebody who's not using power tools, because that is clearly dangerous. Could get caught in a drill or who knows what. And just come whipping off.
When was the last time you used a power drill?
Me?
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago?
And you didn't do it topless.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not up on the latest in power drill etiquette, but if that's the way it's supposed to be, thank God I'm no longer into that.
Well, no, I was just asking you about your experience, because in my experience, I also have never used a power drill or a power tool in general while topless.
Yeah, just bad idea all around. But utterly hilarious in this scene, I thought, which, by the way, is only 35 days into the wedding. And I was thinking when you were mentioning the fact that Shekinah had just said
35 days.
that she could easily find another man, wasn't that like at about the 60-day mark? Like it's been a good 2 or 3 weeks since she said that. Well, since they had that argument where she said I could go and find another man if I wanted to. So it's not like the next day. It's a good little gap in between these two events.
So either they got over it, or this has triggered him again, or it's planned.
Yeah. The next part of their segment has to do with Sarper doing his comedy routine on an open mic night.
I am so proud of this man. Just the confidence and the ambition. And, you know, he's still humble while he's doing it. He's like, I could go up there and I could fail, but I'll laugh at myself.
It takes so much courage, and I greatly admire anybody who does this. It's such an admirable thing to put yourself in front of a huge crowd and make yourself vulnerable like that and expose so much of yourself. Thought it was great that he was even doing it. I thought it was awful that somebody decided to invite Dan to this event. Like, come on, this is asking for trouble.
Somebody. Obviously, it was Shekinah.
Well, they said it was the other guy who... Dan said it was whatever his name was, also guy with open shirt down to his belly button, that he called him to say that Sarper was having this event. And of course, like, why would Dan even agree to go? Wouldn't it have been better if he just said, you know what, I'm going to sit this one out. I don't really want to be a part of this, because he hates Sarper, obviously, and that causes tension?
No. I wonder if he wanted to go because he wanted to watch him fail, because Shekinah has already confessed to him that Sarper wants to be a comedian and he's horrible.
Right.
So he wanted to watch Sarper fail.
That makes sense.
And you know what? Whether or not he failed, I don't give a shit, because Sarper gave him the most lovely of all snide comments. And it was so brief, but it set him right off. What did I say? His jab was...
It was such a good burn. It was perfectly timed.
Thank you. That was the word I was looking for.
Perfectly timed, perfectly placed.
Perfectly delivered.
Yes, perfectly delivered.
Hang on it. He was just like, and you too, Dan. And then back into his routine. Like, he did it so well.
Yeah, that was just classic good comedy timing and delivery. The fact that Shekinah was somehow on Dan's side afterwards baffled me, because this is part of the experience. I mean, if anybody's gone to a comedy show, there is a very good chance that at some point you may be picked on by the comedian, and you just accept it. It's part of the territory. They may pick on you, and it will be at your expense for the sake of a laugh for everybody else in the room. But you just go along with it. You don't act like a complete baby, which is what Dan did, and pout and sulk and complain and whine. He made fun of me and I don't like it. Shut the...
personally.
It would have made him look so much better if Dan had taken that burn and just gone like, way to go, Sarper. Excellent. Good one. Nicely placed. Nicely timed. It would have made him look like a man, like a brave person, like somebody who has self-confidence.
I think it would have completely de-escalated Shekinah.
Yep.
Like, had he just been like, good one, good one, she would have seen that he is not stewing, And she doesn't need to be defensive over him. Also, why is she being so defensive over him?
Why is she being so defensive of him when it's her fiance who's at the other end of this? And why is she being so defensive when we saw it the last time that they met that Dan was the one who completely instigated over and over and over again the attacks on Sarper, and she did nothing about it. She just watched it. She wasn't even saying to Dan, hey, cut that out. Sarper doesn't appreciate it. The way that she was then at the comedy show saying to Sarper, Dan didn't like that. Dan's feelings are hurt. Basically, you've got to do something about this to make things good with Dan. Like, it's so out of whack. Her loyalty is zero.
You are the doormat for my friends. They can say whatever they want to you, but how friggin' dare you say anything back during your first time doing comedy? He actually could have done an entire bit on Dan.
Yeah.
But instead, he just made that one tiny little comment, maximum 5 words, perfectly delivered, and now it's completely blown up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
And now Dan wants to beat him up.
But this was probably the highlight for me of this episode, was watching Sarper deliver this line so perfectly and just feeling that joy for him that he was able to perform in that way.
And he landed it.
Mm-hmm.
He actually landed it. I thought we didn't get to see all 5 minutes of it. I really wish that I could have, but just that one bit. And I actually rewound it so I could watch it again because it was just so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It gives me hope for his career.
Yeah.
And she kind of has said it in the past, like, you're a funny human being, but like to script it and go up and perform it, you're not good enough. So for him to actually go up and land not just a laugh from the audience members, but a laugh from me, I would call that a success.
Agreed.
Can't even say the damn word, but that's how I feel.
Reading on, Mark and Mina. It's Mark's birthday. Mina has prepared a pancake for him, which is a horrendous mess. How does she not know how to cook? She's French. This is definitely not a crepe. He says, oh, I really love your crepe. And I'm like, nope, no, sir, not a crepe. That thing is thick as can be. A crepe is wafer thin, paper thin.
Just the way she, do you not understand how liquid works?
No, she does not.
When she was
liquid on a hot surface,
paint out the numbers,
mm-hmm.
and then it all, melded in together as liquid does, and then she starts blowing on it as if that's gonna help. But then she covered it in whipped cream, and I mean, excellent idea.
Okay. Anyway, what these two are doing is they're flying to Boston for Mark's birthday for the weekend. And we learned that Mina's sister is coming from Brussels. She doesn't come during this episode, but I suppose it'll happen next week or the week after. And the sister's going to be staying with them until they have the wedding. And then we also learned that Clayton, Mina's son, is supposed to come over with Mina's brother, but there's been no update on what the status of Clayton's arrival is. So we don't know if he's coming or not. Things are up in the air.
I was very curious as to who's watching Clayton if the sister's coming. But then they did say it was the brother. He was going to come with the brother.
Yeah.
Then how quickly do you think the visa passport issue was going to be resolved? And I wonder if all of it is hanging on the actual adoption paperwork and it's just taking longer.
Oh.
So that he can sign the paperwork for the passport as well. I don't really know the process in France.
But if she is the sole parent, because it doesn't sound like the biological father is in this whatsoever, especially if they're now saying that Mark is going to adopt Clayton, because you can't have a biological father and an adoptive father. That's not a thing. So Clayton is the sole responsibility of Mina. Then why is she not able to get this documentation without there being a man on the form too? It doesn't compute for me.
Well, I wonder if it's because the father hasn't relinquished his rights and they've petitioned the courts for him to relinquish his rights so that Mark can adopt him.
Maybe.
That's what's holding it up. I don't know. There's so many theories that are floating around online, but that seems to be the one that resonates with me the most. That makes the most amount of sense to me. But I did want to comment about their conversation while she was eating her steak and fruit when she was asking, are like, I'll sign the prenup, but I want you to adopt Clayton. And then both of them are like openly crying in public. And I'm like, their emotions seem very genuine. Even if, you know, production was all there and they're like, okay, now you're going to talk about this. Like, it seems to be like an actual genuine response to the whole situation. I think they're both happy about it and it's already in the works.
Totally.
So it's just a matter of time.
Mina has said to us a couple of times now that Mark already agreed to adopt Clayton. They had talked about this ages ago. They just hadn't actually formalized anything, or she hadn't said to him, okay, this is something that I need in order for us to get married or for me to sign the prenup. So, yes, I agree with you. And I totally acknowledge that the real emotion that they had as they were having lunch and talking about adopting Clayton was beautiful. And it really solidifies that this is a real couple, that they definitely have invested in one another. But it's like, it's a non-issue. We already knew this was going to happen. You don't have to make it a condition of the prenup. Regardless, it's a lovely little moment between the two of them. The one thing that I wanted to point out was that when they were in the car, still on the way to their hotel in Boston, they were talking about Clayton, and this has to do with if Clayton can get there in time for the wedding, then things are going to proceed as you would expect them to. But if he doesn't get there in time, what's Mina going to do? Is she going to go back to France or not? And when she's saying, well, maybe I'm going to go back to France because they don't know, Mark says, if she goes back, then Maria's going to stay in the US with him. And I was like, what? It was like the record scratching in my head. What was that?
I had the same reaction.
Because was he saying that as a threat? Or is this something they've already talked about and they've decided that Maria would stay in the US while Mina goes back and collects Clayton, but they have to restart the entire K1 visa process. So that could take a couple of years. Like, what? And she doesn't seem upset at all about that. She's not going ballistic and saying, like, over my dead body, you're going to keep my daughter here while I'm away for up to 2 years. This I thought was so weird that we didn't linger on this conversation and resolve it. It just, like, we skated over it like it was nothing. And yet to me, it was massive. It was a massive twist.
But I don't think that they spent too much time on it because it was just like dropping the bomb and then walking away because it didn't ignite.
But she's a mother. And how can she just say, hey, yo, that's fine. You keep our daughter here for 2 years. I don't mind. That's fine. She's just a baby, but doesn't matter.
That's not what her face said, but I feel like that's what her words said.
Oh, maybe they'll come back to this, but I am very unsatisfied. I want to know more.
I had one last comment about them. I feel like this is the first time where they actually engaged with Maria.
That's true. That's true.
She was feeding her the Fritz,
Mhm.
and then she was playing with a toy. And Mina had said, "Calm down, it's Daddy's birthday. You should
It's a
know
small
at your
child.
age that you cannot tell her to calm down. If anything, it's her birthday. It's her birthday. It's her dad's birthday. She's excited. She had whipped cream and liquid chocolate and pancake.
I don't know what she was eating.
For breakfast. Anyway, probably hopped up on sugar.
Definitely.
But anyway, I really enjoyed their interaction and the emotion between them. I thought it was very heartfelt, and I was grateful to have that kind of almost like realistic view into their lives. No matter how produced it may have been, their emotions definitely were.
Yeah.
And I loved it when she told Mark to stop crying. Can you stop crying? We're in public. I thought it was cute.
It was. I loved it too. Reading on. Jessica and Juan, who have 30 days left, they have a bachelor and bachelorette party, well, 2 separate parties, happening in South Dakota with friends and family. And of course, Megan is there with Herbie. Yay. A happy addition to this party is Juan's cousin, which is nice that he gets to have a little bit of family around him since everybody else is back home in Colombia. And when they're all going on this little side excursion to see Mount Rushmore, Juan's in the car alone with his cousin and he starts unloading, as one does. He describes the situation that he finds himself in right now as not being in paradise. So I guess the cruise ship was paradise. And he also says that it's like being stuck in a house in a small town. So yes.
With 3 children, one of whom is an infant.
The
older children are not yours.
you could really see how things are starting to wear on him.
Yeah.
This life is not working for Juan. Having to change so much about his previous life in such a short amount of time, being away from a job that he obviously loved. Anyway, he's not speaking positively about his current life, and his cousin, his name is Alex, advises Juan, maybe you should discuss this with Jessica. Of course he should. Yes, that is correct.
I thought that was the most perfect advice, which Saeed should have told Mahdi, talk to your wife.
Yeah.
Not let me talk to her for you.
No. And yeah, of course, Juan should reveal to Jessica that he's been considering going back to work on the cruise ships. But at this point, I was like, look, there's no way that if he tells her this, she's going to agree to it, because he did cheat on the cruise ship with a guest while he and Jessica were together. So why would she put him in that situation again?
Well, not just that, but she baby trapped him for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
She's not going to let him go back to that life because she knows he's never going to come back. He has to stay there because now he's the live-in dad until he can, until he gets his work permit. And then he can watch all of the children. So she doesn't have to worry about, I don't know, daycare or whatever. She's so, you want to talk about Stevie being selfish? This woman is selfish.
This one takes the cake, absolutely. And I will have things to say when we get to that point where they're in bed together after the bachelor and bachelorette parties are over. Yep. I love the fact that they go to see Mount Rushmore and they can't see a damn thing because it's so foggy. I thought to myself, well, this is a nice little metaphor for their relationship.
You know what was so funny was they were talking about going to see Rushmore, and I think I had to go to the bathroom or something. And then as I'm walking to the bathroom, I'm like, you know how many times you see those videos like, well, that sucks. I went to go see whatever and it's completely fogged over. Like, that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that is going to be a direct reflection of how much he enjoys his time with Jessica and the family.
Yeah.
I take that back because obviously he loves his son very much, mm-hmm. but it's Jessica and the other two kids that are the issue.
Next up are the two parties separate, but before they separate for the night, Juan is forced to wear this t-shirt which has Jessica's face all over it, which is obviously a chastity belt, if you will, for a man.
A gift from Megan.
Yes, from Megan, who is very, very much involved in how much freedom Juan has. Anyway,
I wouldn't bet you any money that she told her husband to keep an eye on him, which is hilarious.
Totally.
What happens.
Men go off to a bar where there are strippers. Juan does get dances from the strippers. Fine. No issue with that. But all he can talk about is the boat life and how much he misses it.
I love that he calls it the boat.
Yeah, the boat.
As if it's just like
a little sailboat.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep picturing like in the Notebook in the very beginning and the very end where he's just rowing on the water. Mm-hmm. That's what I think of. Like that's very exciting. Honestly, that would be much better than the situation that you're in. But when they were at the strip club, and even without the women dancing on him, I've never seen him so happy. Mm-hmm. Obviously, booze had a lot to do with it, but you could I felt like he had a sense of freedom for the first time since he landed. And he was able to breathe. And then I laughed when she tied up his hands. And then they were both dancing up on him. Again, I had to laugh because he couldn't pull a Gino and touch them because his hands were tied. Remember how Jasmine was so mad about that? Did you touch them? He said no. Blows up. But he can confidently say that he didn't touch them. It's on film. Mm-hmm. His hands were literally tied. Mm-hmm. I love that we can pull, because there's been so many seasons, we can pull all these different events together and compare them. Talk about my hands too much.
I agree. I think that comparison to Gino is perfect. And the fact that Gino was lying through his teeth, and yet Juan is perfectly able to tell the truth, and there's nothing wrong in anything that he did that night, except that he was just so incredibly stuck on talking about the cruise ship, which Jessica has no clue about. So I guess in a way you could say that is kind of cheating, but not really. I don't know.
I would say that it's
disloyal.
He's keeping a secret that he hasn't gotten up the nerve to talk to her about yet.
Yeah, for sure.
So I wouldn't say that he's necessarily lying about it. He's not cheating. He's contemplating things that he really needs to discuss with her. And I can appreciate him taking the time, talking to his cousin about it first. Because sometimes when these things come up, you need to talk to someone else before you talk to your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how to approach it. I know their stance on it. They're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
And I also don't know how I feel. So you just kind of need to talk yourself through it first.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I think he knew from the beginning what he wanted to do, it was just a matter of he needed to talk it through to be able to come to that decision on his own. Because his cousin didn't say anything other than, I think you need to talk to Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't put anything into his head.
I think the cousin kind of implied, like, this is your life now. This is your family. The relationship is everything. Family is everything. I think it was pretty much implied that Juan should not be considering going back on the cruise ship. And of course, everybody knows how much Jessica hated him working on the cruise ship.
Even though that's how she met him.
Even though that's where they met, and that's what he did for like the first year and a half of their relationship, maybe more.
Well, they've been together for like 4 years now.
Is it 4?
Something like that.
Good Lord.
One of the couples has been there for 4 years.
Okay.
But they at least have a baby, so it's at least 2. I'm going to go with closer to 3.
Okay. When the boys come back from their part of the evening, they have to carry Herbie into the house.
That's Megan's husband, right?
Yes.
And he was the one who we theorized needed to be keeping an eye on Juan.
Yeah.
And he was so put together. Like, he could still articulate. He didn't, like, really look or sound too smashed. He just looked like he just went out for a couple beers with the guys.
Are you talking about Juan?
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't seem like he was drunk at all. So when you were saying the alcohol could have played a factor in how happy he seemed, I was like, yeah, maybe. But I almost felt like, oh, he could have been their designated driver because he did not seem to be drinking that much or drunk at all.
But maybe he got to that, like, tipsy point. When you get, like, super giggly and you're just having a great time and everything's fantastic, but you're not drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seems like he can really handle his alcohol. He knows his limits. He didn't go overboard. Poor Herbie passes out in the taxi. The Uber has to get carried inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then even Megan's like, oh, it sounds like he's wasted.
It tells him to go to bed right away. Go to bed.
So
that's nice.
Not uncommon.
No. Probably not unfamiliar territory for Megan. Also, in the sloppy drunk category, Jessica.
She was covered in lipstick.
Mm-hmm.
Covered.
Yeah. So does that mean they were putting lipstick on men and making them kiss her?
That's not what I got. I just assumed all of her friends just put on lipstick, and I don't know.
Figured it was one of those bachelorette games, where they either make you go and kiss multiple strangers or get multiple strangers to come and kiss you as the bride. I thought we don't know. No idea.
But did they actually go to a bar though?
Yeah, the girls went to a bar. They were all drinking heavily at a dancing. Anyway, she's really drunk or somewhat drunk. She and Juan go and lie in bed together, and you can see her eyes are all glassy, like she's somewhere in the drunk category. Juan finally admits to her he doesn't want to be a cowboy. He doesn't want to be a farmhand. The cruise ship has called him. They want him back. He wants to be able to contribute to the family. So, and her response is,
you want to tell me this while I'm drunk?
God damn awful. We don't need you to take care of us.
Oh, shit, I forgot about that part.
The actual fuck? We don't need you to take care of us? The most emasculating thing I can think of to say to him, we don't need you to take care of us. And then she says the decision, it's up to you, but don't waste my time. Don't do it. Is he allowed to make the decision himself, or are you telling him what his decision should be?
Yeah, not to do it. Make up your mind. But wasn't the first thing that came out of her mouth was, you want to talk about this while I'm drunk?
Yep, it was.
I feel like he needed to have that liquid courage to have that conversation with her, because she would just come back with platitudes like are written all over her walls, all of her word salads.
The family is the center of the home.
Live, laugh, love. Just stupid. Anyway, I found her response to be very manipulative.
Oh, yes.
And very dividing.
How so?
We don't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And yet she was saying at the beginning, oh no, we need you here.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, she just needs his help because she is 3 boys, 2 have had no discipline, and an infant.
Yeah.
And she lives alone, in theory, with no doors.
Exactly. So she needs Juan to be there. I totally get that. But the fact that she's basically limiting him to being a stay-at-home dad is not fair. She's got a career. He should be allowed to have a career as well. Whether or not that career is in poop town, cattle poop town, whatever it's called, or on a cruise ship, that's up to them to figure out. But to just take over his autonomy completely and say, nope, you're staying here, and I only have use for you as a stay-at-home dad to look after the kids while I'm out working. So forget about a job. We don't need you. You're not contributing anyway. Like there's just so much contradiction in what she's saying. And it's so devaluing of him.
Yes. Thank you. That was another word I was looking for. Perimenopause is a bitch. But then she lost it because I got sidetracked about perimenopause. Like, what did they think was going to happen when he moved there? Like, what were the job prospects? Like, what did he think was going to happen when he moved there? And also, what does she think she's going to achieve by stripping this man of his autonomy, as you said?
Yeah, it's like she's biting off her nose to spite her face, you know? Like you can't see that what you're doing is you're destroying his self-confidence and you're destroying the connection that you have in your relationship by devaluing him so much so that he will go away and go back to the cruise ship. If you want to keep him there, encourage him to find a job that he finds fulfilling. And maybe it's not going to be bartending because it sounds like there's really not a lot of those, but maybe there's something else he could do other than shoveling shit.
And yet they have gone to several different places that have required bartenders.
That is true. Yeah.
But I want to know where she gets the audacity to baby trap him, to get him there, to suffocate him with, I want to say untrained, but that is such an awful term. Undisciplined children, no doors. And she's almost acting like, she is the cream of the shit crop. The more I think about it, the funnier it gets. Like, he needs to bend over backwards to be with her because now she has his child, and that's the only thing that should matter to him. And I'm not saying she's wrong. However, this is a 20-something-year-old dude. Is he 20-something? Early 30s?
I will tell you in a moment. I didn't write down their ages for this one. I don't know why. Okay, never mind. Anyway, I think he's around 30.
It's in one of my other ones. But anyway, yeah, you want to try to manipulate this guy who still has the freedom to get up and leave?
Yeah.
You don't. You have 3. He has 1. He's on a K1 visa right now. He can peace out and you will never hear from him again. Ever. Why do you feel like this is your power move? This is not your power move. This is you showing your weakness and your desperation.
And pushing him further away.
Yeah. And I don't even feel bad for her. I'm just glad that she got her bangs cut.
Oh my. Oh, she looks so much better in this episode.
That's one of my first comments. She got her bangs cut. Great. Good for her is what I said.
Let's move on and visit the throuple. Last we saw them, they were awaiting the arrival of Ray, Ani's ex-boyfriend, supposedly, at the restaurant. He finally arrives. They all sit down. It's awkward, to say the least. Ray has no clue who these 2 people are, which is weird.
But he's only aware of them via social media.
Yes, which is to say not at all.
Which is to say that this is just another one of her tricks that she randomly posts about online.
It's weird that he says he doesn't know who these people are.
Even though they're set, well,
notwithstanding the social media connection that he has been aware of, because they have been sending money to his bank account for some time now. So why does he not? I wonder
how many other people are doing it though, so it didn't stand out.
Exactly. So that was my next question. Is this normal for him to receive money from complete strangers into this bank account that he and Ani have access to together so that he doesn't know if the people who are sending it are her girlfriend's, boyfriend's tricks. We don't know. The one thing that we do establish is that Ray has a deeper connection to Ani. He's known her for longer. He's met all of her family, all of her kids. Plus, he has this bank account with her. And he also happens to know that her real name is Brenda.
But I also wonder, or I don't think it's a joint bank account. I think it gets filtered through him.
Okay.
So he sends it to her. Taxation-wise, that makes me very curious. Why are all these people sending you money? I also want to know how much money. But that doesn't matter. I just want to know how this guy got in the middle of it all.
Yep.
As her ex-boyfriend.
Yep.
He doesn't come off as that like intimidating pimp type, but maybe he has a couple different demeanors that he can pull out. Maybe he's an excellent actor and he can pull the whole honest guy, which is the one that he was pulling on this one. And then he could have the aggressive or assertive pimp side.
These are possibilities, yes. But just given what we're faced with, what we're shown, yes, our very limited information, we find out that Ani's real name is Brenda. This sends Amani into an outrage because, of course, she feels entitled to know everything and anything about Ani. The fact that Ani hasn't shared this information with her is like bigger than anything that's ever happened to Amani in her whole life. And meanwhile, Ray is like totally shocked and surprised to hear that the relationship is at this point where it's so serious that they're planning to propose to Ani at the end of the trip, and that they also have to get divorced first, which then brings up the other piece of very valuable information about Ani, or Brenda, I should say, which is that she is also not divorced. She is divorced in theory, but not on paper. So
the process is in works. Nobody knows how far along.
Right.
But Mani's response to it was so friggin' laughable.
Yes.
She didn't tell us that she wasn't even divorced yet. And now, we were planning on getting divorced and now she's messed it all up. Bitch, you haven't even applied to get divorced yet. It will still take time for your divorce to be complete. I'm singing again. And then you still have to apply for the K-1 and hope that immigration completely overlooks the fact that you have already admitted that you were going to commit immigration fraud with this new marriage.
Yeah. One of the other notable things that Amani listed off when she was going into that tirade about all the things that Ani hasn't shared with her is that she said, I've shared my whole life with her. She's met my kids. And I was like, when would that be? Because Ani has never been to your house. Are you talking about seeing them on a video chat? Is that what you're considering meeting your children and exposing your children to this woman to meet? Like, no, I'm sorry, but that does not count.
And obviously, they have never brought the kids down there because that would interfere with their sexy times.
Yep. No, they haven't done that.
The only times when they go down to visit is when they have someone to watch the kids.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, they called and just like, oh, it's bedtime. Let me just put the kids to bed. Say hi, children.
Exactly.
And then goes puts on like a nurse costume or something, and then their night commences. Like, it's not one of those like, I have some very important that I want you to meet.
Yeah, and sitting down, talking with them, having good conversations. She has not spent any time with Amani's kids. So what is this baloney that she's spouting as a reason for all of the things that she's sacrificed for this woman? And yet Ani hasn't told her real name and that she's actually not legally divorced yet. It's such baloney. I just want to...
Yes, I agree with you. Yes. The whole thing is just so incredibly fake and stupid. And, I feel like someone had like a fantasy and then they were like, oh, we're going to write this into a script.
Not my fantasy. No, thank you.
Well, also not mine and also not theirs, unless the purpose of it is for clout.
Yes. Well, this segment ends with Amani calling Ani and inviting her to come to dinner, which happens in the very last seconds of the episode.
Okay, first of all, the balls. The balls to call the ex,
yes,
to meet up with him.
Yes.
And then to find stuff out, and then to call her to show up and not tell her that he's there. So now you have broken the trust.
Many times.
You've broken the trust circle.
But not only that, but you are in a heightened emotional state. Is now really the best time to call your girlfriend and bring her into this very, very unstable situation where you know you're about to lose it? It just seems wrong on so many levels, but whatever. Okay, let's go with it.
I felt bad for
Ray.
being put in that situation. You know, they did that aside little thing, and he's like, I think I may have caused some issues. I'm not. And then I was like, are you not her pimp? Are you just some man who she's using to filter the money through so she doesn't have to report it?
Maybe.
Is he still just another trick?
I don't know. The possibilities are endless on this one. And I think Ani deserves an award for arranging her life in this way that nobody really gets to know her.
Yeah. She becomes so much more fascinating. Before I was like, I don't want to call her a simp, but like, whatever. Yeah, I'm just going to go be with this couple and I'm going to leave my kids and, you know, whatever. And then it turns out that she's actually very intelligent. She knows how to play the game. She not only knows the game, she knows how to play it. And she knows her strategy.
Okay. Well, we're almost done. So we didn't have Gregory and Joan this week, and we didn't have Sean and Aaliyah this week. Next week, Joan is going to get help, in quotations, from Lucille in altering her dress, which does not go well. Can't wait to see that.
Looks interesting.
Very.
Lucille looks or sounds like she's going to be reactive. Vindictive. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Sarper is going to visit Dan, who lives in a castle. Of course he does.
I'm excited to see this. Is there going to be a house cow?
I don't believe we're going to have a house cow, but I do believe we're going to have a macho showdown of sorts.
Is there going to be a moat?
No moats. No alligators.
Moat with an M.
I said moat.
I thought you said, okay, well, apparently I can't hear.
Okay. Listen carefully. Mina is trying on her wedding gown. It doesn't fit. Amani is going to freak out about all the things that Ray has revealed. Yay. I can't wait to see that. And Sean is going to ponder his options. Again, we're focusing in on the gender transformation thingy, surgery. Again, yes. Finally, next week, Stevi and Mahdi are going to attend their bachelorette, bachelor party together thing.
This is joint.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It is not a joint, it is joint.
I knew that there were 2 joint bachelorette parties, but I couldn't remember which ones it were. I am not well.
Let's go to bed then. Before we go, if you're enjoying the 90 Day Fiancé Honestly podcast, please subscribe to or give our show a follow. And if you have an additional moment, please rate us and help other 90 Day fans to find our show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.